Hello and welcome to the Greater Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce Business Forum for March. It's March already, can you believe it? I'm Martin Owen, I'm the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce this year, and we've got some superstars for you today. We've got Stephen Smith, the editor of the Gulf Coast Post, Greg Donovan, the director for Okaloosa Regional Airports, and Colonel Nodjomian of the commander of Eglin Air Base. Welcome. Colonel, I've got a load of questions for you here, if I can find them on my iPad. I saw somebody doing this the other day on TV and it was wonderful. He was just sitting there talking from this and, well, you know what I'm like, you've seen me before. Tell me about the base. It's the largest base in the US, is that right?
That's correct. We have the largest installation in the entire Department of Defense right here on the Emerald Coast.
Oh, that's great for the rest. That's superb for us. I tell people and they go, Emerald Coast, where's that? And I go, yeah, it's near Eglin Air Base. And around the world, they all know what's going on.
That's right.
There's restructuring going on at the moment. Tell me about that. What's happening with the restructuring?
Yeah. The Air Force in general is restructuring, as I'm sure you've heard. Some of the challenges that we've had with our budget cuts have resulted in some reduction in civilian positions. And the way it's being manifested here at Eglin is we're restructuring our center, and the center is effectively being drawn down. That's happening at 7 bases within Air Force Materiel Command. The direct impact for us is about 350 positions or so are coming off the books. Those are all civilian positions. But that's something that we take very close to heart, and we've arranged a drawdown plan that has been built in such a fashion that none of the civilians that are actually impacted that will lose their jobs. And so if I can explain that a little bit further, we've held positions in abeyance for a while, positions that have been vacant. We've left them vacant so that as the drawdown actually comes to fruition, people that were in positions that were cut could be realigned to these vacancies so they would be able to hold on to their jobs. So end of the day, nobody ended up being forced out of the gate at Eglin Air Force Base.
That's great, that's great. So how does that affect the future? What's the future of Eglin?
The future of Eglin is still very bright. In fact, I'll tell you a few other things about it. Back about 2005, where we had the last round of BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission, Eglin fared extremely well in that particular round, and we got 2 brand new mission sets here, and that's of course the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35, and the 7th Special Forces Group moved down from Fort Bragg. Those 2 moves combined brought about 10,000 people to our area, whether you're taking into account the military, the civilians, and dependents that are aligned with those missions. Over $1 billion in investment was made to bring in those 2 mission sets. So all told, a significant amount of growth for our area. So when you consider the drawdown that's being driven by these latest budget reductions, it's actually a relatively small proportion or percentage as compared to the growth that we've had. Right.
I remember the 2005 BRAC because I was just coming over here then from the UK, and my father-in-law, who's a retired 3-star, was telling me how important it was, and he was really firing up about it. It was great. Now we've heard recently that the 728th Air Control Squadron, the ACS, is going away. What happens there? Again,
the ACS, what they do as air controllers is they match to aircraft sets and mission sets. So the Air Force just made a recent decision to reduce its number of aircraft that's going to have into the future. And as a reduction, or as a parallel to that, there has to be a reduction in some maintainers, pilots, and in this case, ACS as well. So the decision was made to consolidate ACS operations where it makes sense. And for us, that meant a reduction of the current unit that's here. And that's going to be done through just normal attrition. Those folks will eventually move out rather than bringing new folks in under a permanent change of cycle or permanent change of station cycles. They'll just not replace them as they depart.
Okay.
So, and that's all military. There's no civilians impacted by the drawdown of the 728th.
Okay. Obviously, civilians are impacted because they're married to them and that sort of thing. So
in that case, no civilian jobs, I should say.
We care. We care from that point of view. I was involved with the 7th Special coming down because I was marketing homes to them at the time. Now that's a totally different mission, isn't it, from everything else that's happened?
Absolutely. Those guys, they are truly a special breed. I mean, special's in their name, 7th Special Forces Group, and the things that we ask them to do and the things they do for our country are truly amazing. But it's actually quite compatible with what we do here at Eglin because they need a lot of support from the folks out at Hurlburt, our special operators out of Hurlburt, our folks at 919th Special Operations Wing at Duke Field, right across the street. They interface with them as well. My My guys are supporting them on a daily basis in terms of their day-to-day base operating support. And they need some maneuver space on the range, and we were able to carve out some space for them to operate on the range. So really a great symbiotic relationship that exists between the 7th and the rest of our mission partners at Eglin.
That's great. What about the 33rd Fighter Wing now? Did that change its name to Training Wing, or is it still the Fighter Wing?
No, they're still the 33rd.
No?
In fact, their commander reminded me that the other day. I made a mistake and I wrote Training Wing, and he goes, no, we're a Fighter Wing.
Good.
So, no, they are the 33rd Fighter Wing, 9 aircraft here so far. We had our first flight, as you know, last week, so we're pretty excited about that. Learned a few things, and so next time we go out, we'll have even better sorties. But that continues to expand, and we see a very, very bright future for the Joint Strike Fighter.
Right. And we've got all those customer nations and partner nations coming in. So we've got Brits and Australians and Dutch.
Turks and Dutch, right, yeah.
That's going to make a change to the area.
It's truly going to be an international area.
And what about what I've got down here, Defense Threat Reduction Agency? What's that?
DTRA, they brought in some mission as well under BRAC 05, much smaller as compared to the other two that we just talked about. But again, more testing, more analysis, and that type of stuff, again, blends very well with the mission that we already have here at Eglin. It's a very smart fit.
Okay. Now, I heard that you scored high on the operational readiness inspection.
We did.
Tell me about that. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Yeah, that's probably what we're most proud of from this last calendar year. Our biggest role in life, Martin, more than anything else, is still to be able to go to war. That's what we're all about. And about every 5 years, you have an opportunity to show higher headquarters that you really know how to get there. And so they came down back in October, and they performed a very thorough inspection of us. And there's 4 major graded areas. Won't get into all those details, but I'll tell you that we actually were graded excellent in all 4 areas. And according to that IG team, and they've got quite a bit of experience, it's the first time they've ever seen an Air Base wing score that high. So we were quite proud of that accomplishment.
Well, congratulations to you, and congratulations to everybody at the base, because that's great news, and we're proud of that. That's good news.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming down to see us today. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Thank you, Colonel Nodjomian. Get the name right. We'll be back shortly with our next guests, and we'll talk to you after the break.